Hello. I want to talk to you today about something called survival mode. And the reason that this is important is because for so long, many of us have created our lives upon a foundation and a framework that is categorized by us being in survival mode, and we don't even know it. It's like living and creating a life where you are perpetually blocked, stopped, and unable to progress because you are constantly in this framework of survival mode. And the foundation, the structure, this framework is made up of our thoughts, emotions, and our beliefs. And they are formed when we are young. And if they don't get upgraded, we carry these thoughts, emotions, and beliefs all the way through our adulthood. And it can become extremely frustrating when we're trying to create loves and lives that we really, really want. So that relationship that you want, that job that you want, the life that you want to create, the creativity that you want to have, all of that is characterized by what kind of framework that you are operating from. And the thing is about survival mode is we don't even know, if we've been in it our entire lives, we don't even know that this is happening. We don't even know that this is the kind of experience that we're having. And if you are somebody who really wants to create a life that you love, then you will probably be experiencing some blockers, some repeating patterns, getting quite frustrated with yourself, or you're reading all of the Instagram posts and Facebook posts that say this is how you create the life that you love, and you're not getting the results that you want. Well, one of the reasons could be that you're in survival mode. And if you have had any form of big T trauma or small t trauma, or you're living in a state of constant stress and hypervigilance or overwhelm or anxiety, it's likely that you're in survival mode. The interesting thing about being in survival mode, like I said, is that we often don't even know that we're in it. Because it's been an experience that you've had all of your life, you grow up thinking that this is absolutely normal. And I'll give you an example of a time when I didn't know I was in survival mode, but I absolutely was. And my body was communicating to me and I didn't even realize. I just thought that this was normal. So around the time that my first child had died, and I was in grief, but I also really desperately wanted to be a mother. And so I tried very quickly to start getting pregnant again. But my body was not cooperating. My cycles had completely stopped. My hormones were all over the place. The doctors were telling me everything was fine, but I couldn't understand why nothing was working as I thought it was. And during that time, not only was I grieving, but I was also in a very emotionally intense place where I was experiencing a lot of abuse towards myself. So I was very angry towards myself and very upset, but also in my relationship, there was a lot of mental and emotional abuse as well. And my body shut down. It was like it knew we were in some sort of war experience. So I went into survival mode. And it wasn't until I left that situation 2 years later, well, actually it was almost 3 years later, that my cycle started 2 weeks later. And it was when I started to be able to breathe and I allowed my body to relax, and I knew that my relationship to myself had changed and I felt safe. And I didn't know I hadn't felt safe until I did feel safe. And then it was extremely obvious. And it was a really important moment in my life because I started to realize that I had been ignoring the very messages from my body because it wasn't convenient. I wanted a different outcome and I was resisting what was actually happening because I wanted something else to happen. And so I ignored the messages from my body until I no longer did. And I realized that I had been living in survival mode. So ways to tell that you're in survival mode, and maybe you don't even recognize it, is there's a constant lack of focus and brain fog. You're never really sure what's going on. It always feels a bit overwhelming. Number 2, everything feels urgent all of the time, like a sense of almost panic, and that you're trying to keep up with something that you can't keep up with. Number 3, you feel numb or at your limit with very little joy, maybe even apathy or feelings of futility. Number 4, being hypervigilant. That means you're constantly waiting for something bad to happen and you're not sure why. Like on the face of it, it all seems completely, totally normal, but actually when you really pause, you recognize that you're waiting for something bad to happen. Number 5, you're probably struggling to sleep or stay awake. And if you're a sensitive soul, the amount of brain power it takes to stay in survival mode and the adrenaline that's running through your body will be either cutting off your feelings of hunger or making you feel extremely hungry all of the time. So if you're feeling like that resonates in some way, I want you to first of all understand that we as humans have 4 main human needs that we have, fundamental human needs that we have to have met. And if we don't have these fundamental human needs met, we are likely to stay in survival mode. And I really want you to consider that you are the advocate, you are the guardian, even though sometimes you may feel helpless or hopeless or like you don't have the confidence or the ability to. You are the guardian of your heart, your soul, your emotions, your mental state. So if any of this does apply to you, I really suggest that you reach out and ask for help, either from me or somebody who can resonates with you and that you can get some support from. Because the good thing about survival mode is it can and you are able to move into a much, much more comfortable place and therefore feel like you're able to do what you want to do and achieve what you want to achieve and feel confident and capable and assured. Those are all things that are your right to have and that you absolutely can create. It will take some time, that's absolutely for sure, but you can do it. So the 4 fundamental needs are, the first is a physiological, which means we all must have access to, in order to not feel like we're in survival mode, air, water, food, sanitation, clothes and shelter. If any of those feel like they're under threat, we're likely to feel like we're in survival mode. Number 2, and for many of us in the Western world, this will be the one where you feel most likely to feel impacted by, and that is individual safety. That does include war and natural disaster, right? So that's external, but it also includes family violence, friend violence, relationship violence, and abuse. Now, children have a greater need to feel safe, and if you as a child did not have access to feeling safe, then as an adult, it's really likely you will still be feeling the effects of that. So family violence and abuse includes mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. That means the way somebody talks to you, the way somebody ignores you when you're in need, the way somebody gaslights you, the way somebody makes you feel irrelevant or prioritizes their own needs above yours repeatedly, constantly, and makes you feel less than. To feel safe, and that also includes violence, absolutely, and that is the most obvious one. But if you're experiencing mental or emotional violence, and you're in a house with that, it's very likely that you will feel unsafe, and therefore your sense of self-esteem and emotional competence and advocacy for yourself will come into question, which comes into the next 2 points. Number 3 is about community and belonging, friendship, intimacy, family. If you've watched any of the Brené Brown stuff, you will know that you can first and foremost belong to yourself. That is really key. But, and I would definitely 100% encourage you to go and explore that. And I would like you to think about, who are you surrounding yourself with? Are the people around you uplifting you, supporting you, loving you, taking care of you, showing up for you, and have a win-win relationship, not one full of emotional sucking, a vampire type of situation? Or do you feel like you are in a loving space? If you have grown up in a situation where that wasn't the norm for you, it's likely that you are going to find that you're going to replicate the same relationships in your adult life too. And we do need to, at some point, take stock and reevaluate or evaluate for the first time what is going on, what choices have you made, what people are you surrounding yourself with, and you are allowed to change that. In fact, I would encourage you wholeheartedly to be the advocate and the owner of your life and change what makes you feel rubbish and find things that make you feel good. And then rumble with the discomfort of making those choices, but know that you're making them for the good intention. And intimacy, when you have really good intimacy with your friends, with yourself, and with your partner, is one of the most satisfying and absolutely incredible experiences that you can have in your life. And so if you're not cultivating intimacy and all that it brings with it, I would strongly recommend that you go on a journey to find all of the ways that are stopping you from creating intimacy in your life and from elevating yourself out of survival mode and into something that feels empowering and confident and loving. And then number 4 is self-esteem. The need to feel respected and accepted by a community, by yourself, and valued first and foremost by yourself, so that you can feel strong and confident to make your own decisions, that you can trust yourself when you need to. If you don't trust yourself and if you don't feel like you can make confident choices, you are in survival mode and you will be looking to other people to make decisions for you, which will then which will reinforce a feeling of helplessness and weakness. All 4 of those things need to be the absolute priority of any piece of work, any upgrade, any sort of inner child focus or healing focus, or if you want to create the most financial abundance, this is where you start. You start with recognizing, am I in survival mode? Because at its core, survival mode is equal to poverty consciousness. So if you're stuck in survival mode, you will also be in poverty consciousness. So what can you do about it? Well, survival mode really needs somebody else to help you and guide you through it. To guide you back to yourself, ultimately, to help you feel strong within yourself. That is the main purpose of survival mode, is to really direct you in the direction of, how do I love myself? How do I feel comfortable in my own skin? And so it's not a bad thing. It's a coping mechanism that just needs upgrading. So here are 5 ways to help you to start your journey to come back to survival mode. Number 1, find compassion for where you are and where you find yourself, because you are doing the best that you can with what you've got, and that's enough. It's okay. Number 2, connect with the earth. Put your feet on the floor, put your feet on grass, get into nature, put your hands on the top of your table or on the floor to connect with something stable. Number 3, get into nature. Feel the sun on your face at every possible moment that you can. Number 4, have a radical assessment of why you're in survival mode and find other ways, apart from the ones I'm mentioning today, to address it. If you're in survival mode because of PTSD or big T trauma or small t trauma, you need support. There is no way that you can go through this journey without support. In fact, this is designed for you to come out of helplessness and know that you're not alone, because you are seeking the right support for your journey, for where you're at right now. And which brings me on to number 5, which is ask for help from someone who holds a safe and loving space. If you're entering into any relationship with a therapist, a coach, a guide, and they do not help you and support you and talk about creating a safe space, it is not the right one for you. It's very important that you do your due diligence and make sure that the person that you're asking for support and guidance is talking about your recovery and coming out of survival mode in this way, using words around finding safety for yourself, because this is the key to coming out of survival mode. There is one last part to all of this, which is around connecting to the universe, finding your space within the greater expanse of life, knowing that you are loved and supported and nurtured by the universe. So if you feel called to, ask for guidance, connect to Mother Earth, connect to essential oils, connect to whatever deity, whatever guidance, whatever support works for you, and pray. These are all things that help you to understand that you are not energetically on your own. And sometimes that takes a leap of faith. Sometimes it doesn't feel like the right time to do it. But it's an important piece of the puzzle. It's not the only piece. You cannot spiritually bypass survival mode. You can't just love your way out of this. That's not how it works. You have to put in the work. You have to find somebody to support you, love you, and create a safe space for you. That is the fundamentally most important piece of this. And you can have access to other guidance too. So in the meantime, I want you to really take note of how your body is feeling. Do you feel tense? Do you notice any physical ailments like IBS, jaw tension, neck tension, insomnia, any rotator cuff issues, knee problems, anything like that? Please reach out for help. Even if you're not sure, let's have a conversation. Let's explore where you're at right now and take steps to come out of survival mode. It is your right as a human being and as an adult to help yourself at this point create a solid structure and foundation for yourself with help and guidance. The future is beautiful and you are too. And in the meantime, take care of yourself. I am sending you enormous buckets of love. Lots of love.